So tonight I'm going to speak of the last part of our Dhamma talk series. That is, once you attain jhanas, what would you expect after that? What is there for you? You may ask this question, after all we spend so much time, energy in one place trying to attain jhana, and perhaps some of you might even have attained, some may still be struggling. And those who have never attained it might wonder, this is just another speculative theory which has no relevance to our life. Certainly, I won't blame those people, because it is very genuine, natural feeling. Unless you experience it, you don't know. It is just a theory. It's still all right to give a chance and make some attempt. Perhaps if you don't attain now, you may attain it later on, but still, don't give up. When we take the jhanic attainment at cosmic level, or in the largest spectrum, it can go beyond this life. That is, when one attains jhanas, even the highest jhana, called neither perception nor non-perception, even let alone highest immaterial jhana, even material fourth jhanic attainment is extremely powerful and even actually most difficult, let alone higher jhanas. And there is another jhana called supramundane jhanas, which we have not talked about. Perhaps in this talk I like to touch on that also. Supramundane jhanas, for now I must say, even one attains the highest mundane jhanas. There are three types of jhanas. One type is fine material jhana, another is immaterial jhana, and these two, both of them are mundane jhanas. When we say mundane, there has to be something supramundane, and these supramundane jhanas. So, when you attain highest mundane jhana and die in jhana, in the highest level of jhana, superlative, highest degree of jhana, you may be reborn, according to Buddhist belief of rebirth. You will be reborn in the highest cosmic level, highest level in samsara. That is the certain realms called Brahma realms, and in human calculation, human years, it is incalculable, long period of time. You enjoy the bliss and peace in that state. Even that is, of course, just difficult to conceive in our mind, but we believe that there is such a state of existence for those who have practiced jhanas to be born. And all this jhanic practice are wholesome practice. Wholesome practice. Whether it is wholesome or unwholesome, our practice will produce result. This is what we call wholesome karma. Meditation in general is wholesome karma. Even if you do not attain any jhanas, meditation practice is wholesome practice, skillful practice. Even if you do not believe in rebirth, meditation will definitely make this life wholesome. Is that not enough? We don't worry about rebirth. This life itself will be wonderful, wholesome, peaceful and happy. But it has more lasting results or more durable results beyond this life. So, the duration of that peace, that bliss, that happiness in those existence depends on the kind of jhana we practice now. If we practice and attain fine material lowest jhana, that is first jhana, one would be reborn in one of those realms for a certain period of time. When you are born there, until this jhanic effect lasts, until the jhana, the power, the ability, the efficacy, potency of this jhana exists, you will be there. When that is over, you spend that time there, use up your karma there, and then may come back to human level. And human life, again, you may either practice jhana or do not practice jhana. You even don't remember perhaps. Because the power of jhanic power you have already spent. What you have invested is already spent. Now you come back empty-handed. So you have to start everything all over again. Not necessarily. There will certainly be some benefit being in such a wonderful place for so many, maybe an eon. Even if you come back without anything with you, still you will be having a better human life. And that doesn't guarantee that you will practice meditation and you will continue to be a good human being all the time. No guarantee. Perhaps because of a kind of orientation, conditioning, things you have learned and done here, there is possibility that you might be reborn in a lower plane of existence, much lower than human plane. And then again you work your way up again very hard. And then you may go up, come down, up, down in a roller coaster. You see? So go round and round and round and round and round. Merry-go-round. And that is one danger in attaining fine material jhana or even immaterial jhana. Why is it so? Because that attainment, as you have already noticed, once you attain even the first jhana, it is so blissful, so peaceful, you do not feel like coming out of it. Even if you attain for 10 minutes, during these 10 minutes you feel immortal. You don't want to come out of it. And that is an attachment. It is not sensual pleasure. It has nothing to do with the external world. You developed it, cultivated it from within yourself, because you have the potential, you have the power within you, and you explored this potential and discovered this and attain it within yourself. And you are attached to that attainment. Although it is within yourself, you are attached to this feeling. And therefore, you don't want to give it up. That is one danger that many meditators, vipassana meditators, emphasize. They say if you attain jhana, you get attached to it, you will not come out of it. That is also possible. And one would say, why do we need anything else in this life? I don't want anything else. This is so blissful and peaceful, I want to stay with that. Unfortunately, friends, that does not guarantee our future freedom from suffering, future bliss. As long as you are in that blissful state of jhana, you are already happy. But once you lose it, you are just like anybody else, with some good feeling, good results. And yet the inner roots of problems remain. What you have done by attaining jhanas is that you have cut out those bamboo shoots, like thing, the superficial, overground, the little shoots, but underground large quantity of roots are already spread. Underground, you don't see them. When you cut them off for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, you see there are no bamboo shoots. The place is clean. And wait for another week, and you will see a shoot coming out. We have seen that, right? So, similarly, when we attain jhana, during that period, our hindrances will be suppressed. But the hindrances are like those little shoots of bamboo shoots. But they are coming from their roots. And roots they are spread all over like cancer, everywhere. So, the Buddha's advice is, use this jhana, the same thing, because when you attain jhana, even the first one, you have certain degree of mindfulness, concentration, wisdom, equanimity, and so forth. And if you keep practicing, when you go to the fourth jhana, as we mentioned yesterday, mindfulness becomes pure, concentration becomes strong, equanimity is the clearest, the strongest, and Buddha said, use that to delve right into the depth of the roots of our what you call defilements, out of which these hindrances keep arising. So, with that sharp, pure, strong one-pointedness of mind, wholesome one-pointedness of mind, with that pure mindfulness, with the strong, powerful equanimity, pay attention to things that are within us. As I mentioned last evening, sometimes people might wonder, how can we do that? How can we focus concentrated attention on something without thinking? So some especially commentaries say you must come out of jhanic experience and use the mind to focus on various defilements. Such as the notion of self. Notion of self is one of the defilements. We may call it in English either self or soul or ego. Perhaps there may be some differences in these terms, but in Pali we use only one word, atta. What we, in order to see atta or self, in order to see self, where do we look at? Where do we find it? Where is self? So with the concentrated mind, our attention focuses or divert or direct our concentrated mind to see this particular notion, not thinking that I'm going to look at this particular notion, but look at ourselves, not with eyes, not with thoughts. When we look at something with thoughts, what we do is what we do when we look at something with thoughts. Now we have enough of that. We have been thinking, talking, writing, logically, rationally, what this self is. We talk about self. There may not be any other single word that has been so much explored, written about, the volumes and volumes of book as this notion of self and God. And yet they all are limited to words. Now when we cultivate mindfulness and gain deep, concentrated, one-pointed mind, At that level, at that mind, we don't use to think about self. We use words to think when we do not have concentration. When we have this deep concentration, our attention direct that concentration into our body, feeling, perceptions, thoughts and consciousness. And they also are not words. Body is not a word. Feeling is not word, and so forth. Except thoughts. Thoughts are words. When we focus the mind, starting with the body, this concentrated mind, when we focus on the body, these are what we call 5 aggregate. These are the material that we explore, investigate, that we dig into to find out what they are. So we focus our mind on, for instance, one of these aggregates called cell, or the body, and what do we find in the body? Not words, not thoughts, but what we call some material. They are not words and thoughts. We find material, solid material, liquid material, heat and air. This concentrated mind focus on so-called solid material. As you all know, we call it earth element. When we focus concentrated mind on earth element is not a word, not a concept, but it is a matter which also is not one single tangible entity, but a matter made up of many trillions of minute particles. Earth element is an element which itself is not one single solid big object, but made up of very minute, tiny little particles. And these particles, when we focus our mind on, are also breakable. When we break them, when we focus mind directly on this, what we see is not some tangible entity, but waves. They are like waves. They can break down to subatomic level. Now this function, or this breaking down to the minutest subatomic level, is possible only when the mind is fully concentrated. It is the concentrated mind that sees the body in this minutest level, the subatomic level. At that time, what we see there is that all these minute subatomic level waves are always dancing in a state of flux, changing, moving all the time, arising, passing away, arising, coming to peak and passing away. They are always arising and always passing away. We don't see that with unconcentrated mind. What we know with unconcentrated mind is speculative, rational, logical thought. We think, as I mentioned yesterday, since the impermanence has left scars, the marks, the footsteps, the footprints of impermanence are left. From that we know things have changed. But when the change is taking place, we don't see them. But with the concentrated mind, without using any words, that is why, even in inside meditation we ask people not to use words to experience things. To experience the bodily function in its fundamental, rudimentary, basic level, we don't use words. We just focus this concentrated mind. And then what happens, since everything is breaking down, everything is appearing, coming to peak and passing away in a split second, all this happen in these three things can happen in a split second. Appearing, coming to peak and passing away, all these three happens in a split second. Average unconcentrated mind cannot see them changing at that speed. But a concentrated mind can see all this because it is extremely powerful. This is what's called samadhi bala. Samadhi bala, the strength of concentration. And therefore, our notion, we have a notion of self. What is the notion of self? There are 20 types of notions of self. That is, we generally think, ordinary in day-to-day life, when we talk, we behave, we do various things, we don't say these things, but when we think, discuss, we will always have these notions of self. We think the body is self. Therefore it is called sakkaya ditthi in Pali. View that the body is self. Or there is a notion that self is in the body. First we identify the body and self as one, or we think the body is in self, or self is in the body, or body and self are separate. Four possibilities. Similarly, for feelings, 4 possibilities, perception, 4 possibilities, thoughts, 4 possibilities, and consciousness, 4 possibilities. When we take all these possibilities together, there will be 20 different possible ways of thinking of self. Why we do that? Because we think, we talk about it logically, rationally, and so forth, without having one-pointed, concentrated mind. Without one-pointed, concentrated, without focusing one-pointed, concentrated mind, we just talk about it and therefore we do not see this reality. When the mind is fully concentrated, it is that concentrated mind which can penetrate all these superficial barriers and go into the very bottom of the body. Feelings, perceptions, thoughts and consciousness. And then there arises insight in us that this self is an illusion. This notion of self is just an illusion. When we see the notion of self is an illusion, then we experience enormous amount of relief. As long as we do not see that, we feel always very rigid, uptight, proud, and very uncomfortable. We get hurt, we get insulted, we get angry anytime if somebody says something to hurt us. Somebody does something to hurt us. We get upset, angry, disappointed. And we say, he hurt me, he insulted me, he hurt my dignity, my honor, my respect. And I get very upset. But when I see this non-existence of self, it doesn't matter to me what other people say to me. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will irritate me. Why? In reality, there is nothing for me to hold on to. It is just a notion. Otherwise, every day, I would experience great deal of pain from indignation, from insult, accusation, and getting angry. I feel jealous. I will have fear. Fear of death, fear of losing myself, all kind of fears. I will have greed. I have greed because of this self. All kind of irritations, all kind of defilements arise from this root called notion of self. But when we have this deep, powerful, concentrated mind and use it to see the body, feeling, perception, thoughts and consciousness, and then we see that they don't have anything permanent, anything substantial. Everything is in this state of flux, changing all the time. Then the notion of self will disappear. This is one thing that happens when we use the concentrated mind to remove one of the roots of problems. One of the major roots of our problems is the notion of self. And along with that root, greed is settled down, hatred is settled down, and delusion is settled down. So along with that there is greed, hatred and delusion, three unwholesome roots. At the moment we manage to see this root of selflessness in reality, that very moment concentration, average ordinary one-pointed mundane concentration turns into supramundane concentration. Because it takes supramundane level, supramundane understanding in order to uproot this notion of self, and therefore that state is called supramundane jhana. Supramundane jhana. At that moment, our insight becomes supramundane insight. Jhana becomes supramundane jhana. I mentioned at the beginning there are three types of jhanas. One is material jhana, other is immaterial jhana. Both are called mundane jhanas. And the other one is called supramundane jhana. Some meditators say we don't need jhanas at all to attain supramundane attainment. Like what I described was one part of the attainment of stream entry. And this attainment is called attainment of stream entry. It has three parts. This is one part. So they say we don't need concentration to attain supramundane stream entry. All we need is vipassana. But they all admit unanimously that even though they do not practice jhanic meditation, when they attain the supramundane level, they attain it at the supramundane jhanic quality. At the supramundane jhanic quality. Why it is called supramundane? Because this understanding, this realization does not belong to mundane knowledge, mundane understanding. This is supramundane understanding. Mundane understanding remains as mundane until we reach this level of stream entry. Then, along with that, this is the most difficult, what you call deeply rooted defilements to overcome, most difficult one. This is most difficult because there are countless reasons people come up with to substantiate, to support it, to nourish this root of self. This doesn't belong to one particular geographical area. Some people say, oh, Western people think about it, self. Eastern people don't have it. Nonsense. There is no difference between West and East with regard to this notion. All of them alike uphold this notion from time immemorial. But Buddha was so brave, so insightful. Once he realized this, he came out and declared publicly, without any hesitation, there's no self. It is like stabbing, right into the heart. Without any hesitation, he said that. And even up to this date, after almost 2,600 years after his passing away, still people are struggling with this particular attainment, with particular teaching. And only those fortunate ones, lucky ones, who meditate and gain this concentrated meditation combined with vipassana are fortunate to see this exactly as it is. And they are the ones who live from that point onward with a relaxed, completely trouble-free life. Troubles are there, but they won't be bothered by the troubles. This is the most difficult one. Second is doubts. When we see the reality of impermanence, reality of selflessness, reality of unsatisfactoriness, our doubt fades away. Doubt regarding what? Doubt regarding ourselves, doubt regarding the teaching, doubt with regard to the practice, doubt with regard to the Buddha's own attainment, doubt with regard to what he said with regard to self. All these doubts will disappear when we see impermanence at the root level. That when we penetrate impermanence exactly as it is. So long as we have doubt, we may have faith. Along with the doubt, we can have faith. One time we have faith, next time we have doubt. And this go back and forth. And so long as we have doubt, things are always confusing. And sometimes we accept, sometimes we reject. Sometimes we think, well, it seems to be working, sometimes we think it doesn't work for me at all. That kind of ups and downs will happen to us when we have doubts. When we overcome doubts and remove doubts by seeing this reality of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and selflessness, then now doubt will fade away. How can we see impermanence? We can see when we focus our mind on it. How can we see unsatisfactoriness with concentrated mind? Anybody can know unsatisfactory even without concentrated mind. Unsatisfactoriness means suffering. Any average person can feel suffering. Does average person need any deep concentration to understand suffering? One may think, no, one does not need too deep concentration to understand suffering, because we experience it every day. But friends, the suffering we experience every day, actually speaking, is very superficial kind of suffering. If we understand suffering and see suffering in the most fundamental way, at its roots, then we do not have suffering anymore. When we have deep concentrated mind, we see the connection between our greed and suffering. We become attached to impermanent things, thinking that it is permanent. When we see impermanence exactly as it is, then there will not be an attachment to anything in life, including life itself. Even that also is not very easy, very difficult thing, not to have attachment. Not to have attachment is extremely difficult, as difficult or even more difficult than not having the notion of self. Some may say, I don't believe in the self, but I want this. I like this. How can I live without that? So attachment or clinging, craving is even more difficult to get rid of without seeing impermanence exactly as it is. So when we see impermanence very clearly, then we see there is nothing to attach. All union ends in separation. All pleasure ends in pain. All joy ends in pain. So long as we do not see impermanence. When we see impermanence, that knowledge of impermanence itself is a pleasure, it's a joy, it's a happiness. Then we don't cling to it. We don't cling to it and we let it go. And the third thing is the belief in attaining this supramundane level or attaining liberation from suffering by following rites and rituals. One may think if one practice certain rituals every day, see prostrating to the Buddha statue 100 times a day or 200 times at a time, one might think that might liberate myself from suffering, so one might do that. Or one might put flowers on the altar, 100,000 flowers every day, thinking that that would liberate himself from suffering. Or light candles, 84,000 candles. In some countries like Sri Lanka, there is a light offering ritual. 84,000 lamps. They make small earthen lamps, 84,000, and burn the whole area. Whole area is in a blazed flame, generating a lot of heat. You cannot go 10 yards close to that. So hot. That is a kind of rituals. And they bring water, milk, and bathe trees like a bodhi tree. They bathe bodhi tree with milk. And eventually they kill it because worm will grow there and eat the tree, roots of the tree, and they kill it. And still they believe that would liberate them from suffering. And if we look around, the amount of ignorance that people have to believe that rituals and rites and rituals will liberate themselves, and the amount of rites and rituals they perform to be liberated from suffering, I mean, you will be really shocked if you go around the world in any religious tradition. Not only Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jews, you take it, any religious tradition. All they do, all we do, believing that all this will liberate us from suffering. And Buddha said all these are totally nonsensical, nonsense, useless. They would not liberate us from suffering. And yet, how can we get rid of them? We cannot live with them. When we have a deep, powerful meditative state or concentrated meditation or mindfulness meditation, and both combined together, and use this insight and concentration to see these rituals exactly as they are, what they do to us, we can easily do away with them. We can easily live without them. But that is also very difficult. Now you see, these are 3 of the 10 what you call defilements. We call them fetters. Buddha called them fetters. Some people, somebody, when I use this word somewhere giving a talk, fetters, they thought I was talking about a fatness, getting fat. So they thought I was talking about getting rid of our fat to make us thin, to liberate ourselves. So when I talk about 10 fetters, they thought I was talking about 10 types of fatness. It is sort of fatty things. So anyway, these are impediments, binding factors, binding us to samsara. Therefore they are called fetters. And these 3 are 3 of the 10 fetters. Belief in self, belief in rituals, belief in having doubts. Now, when the mind is pure, as I mentioned yesterday in the 4th jhana, mindfulness becomes pure and mind becomes pure and fully concentrated. With that pure, fully concentrated, mindful state, we penetrate, we see the futility, uselessness of all these beliefs. And that liberates us to some extent. That is the first stage of liberation, first degree of liberation. Friends, we don't have to wait until all of them completely eradicated to feel liberation. Every time we see even a little bit of them and learn to chip off one tiny little bit of them, to that extent, to that degree, we feel relief. We feel happy. And therefore when we ask, what does it do to my daily life? We must look at this very carefully. And we must see, it does enormous amount of good to my daily life. Because of my belief in self, I always am uncomfortable. If I reduce it, relax it, and do whatever I do selflessly, I feel comfortable. When I do something with notion of self, I always expect something, at least thank. When I give a talk, if people do not appreciate it, I feel very sad, because I like them to appreciate my talk. Why? Because of myself, my ego, my attachment. If I give some meditation instructions and people say, he talk humbug, just nonsense, rotten, dirty thing, I don't like that. I don't like the way he talks, I don't like the instructions he gives, it doesn't work for me, it is useless. If I hear that, I feel very sad, because I do my best, putting a lot of effort, and think very carefully, and with very good intention I say all these things, but this is what I get in return. I get so disappointed. Why? Because I have ego, self, attachment. If I do this very sincerely. If somebody does not understand, I must try to make the person understand. If the person says, Bhante, what you said is nonsense, I don't understand at all, I like to sit down. If I sit down with that person and say, which part you didn't understand? Help me how to help you. If I do that, then I don't feel sad, I don't feel disappointed. If I cannot do that and I get angry, that means I am full of ego. Sad. Now just look at it from a very practical point of view, practical way. When we look at it, we can see immediate benefit of even having a little bit of understanding of this selflessness. So, when you look at the large picture, you can see the amount of joy, relief, comfort, pleasure and total freedom we will have when we liberate ourselves from all these fetters. Now, this first level of attainment of supramundane level doesn't happen automatically. Through the practice of vipassana meditation, concentration meditation, we see the reality. Only then can these three fetters will be removed from our mind. And yet Buddha said this is the most difficult attainment. Most difficult attainment. And he gave a beautiful analogy. He said he took little dust, earth, dirt into his this small nail. Not this side, but on this side. Put little dust and showed to monks who were with him and asked, Bhikkhus, which is greater, the dirt on my fingernail or the dirt in the whole world? They said, naturally, sir, the dirt in the whole world is so much more than this little dust on your dirt on your finger. Buddha says, similarly, because what you have destroyed by attaining the first level of supramundane attainment, stream entry, what you have destroyed is like this whole world, dirt in the whole world. But what you have to leave, destroy, is just like this little dust on my fingertip. So, therefore, he said, Pathavya eka rajyena saggassa gamanenawa sabba lokadipacchena sotapatti phalang varang. Attainment of this state, stream entry, is greater than becoming a universal monarch. You know, when you become a universal monarch, you can make the whole world dance at your fingertip. You can do anything you want. And he said, it is better than even going to heaven. Because this is the most difficult attainment. So friends, out of all these attainments, when we do this attainment, then our future is 100% guarantee. We will not go below human level, go to the other realm of existence, lower than human realm. That is the most important guarantee. If we were to be reborn, the lowest we will be reborn would be human life. Not only just unfortunate type of human being, but a very fortunate type of human being. Fortunate that we will have good friends, good companions, good situations, happy state of mind, peaceful state of mind. Dhamma is available for us to practice. Meditation is available for us to practice, and our path would become very easy. However, if we strive hard enough in this very life, we even don't have to take rebirth. We can finish everything here and go totally free. So, that is the time when we totally are free. That is the time we remove all the roots of defilements, like removing this bamboo roots, just like putting herbicide. This practice of vipassana inside jhana is like putting herbicide to these roots to kill them.